when I started the business, I was like, I've been a CFO. I know everything about business financials, all this other stuff. This should be easy, which it was at first, but keeping the marketing going and the sales going and all the stuff you have to do to get established enough to not have to spend all your time and energy on that and do actually the stuff you wanna do is so exhausting.
Welcome to Business Buying for Financial Independence. I'm Tim Delaney, and I help young professionals buy small businesses so they can escape the 9 to 5 and take control of their time, income, and future. If that sounds like you, hit the subscribe button and let's get into it. Today's guest is Sarah Bratcher. Sarah is the founder of REI Accounting Solutions and a strategic financial partner for real estate investors who want to grow without chaos. As a former CFO of a high-growth real estate company, she brings firsthand experience and investor-specific strategies to help her clients turn their numbers into better decisions. Sarah is also an active investor who understands the unique challenges of this industry and knows how to make the numbers work for you, not against you. She and her husband own single-family and duplexes in southern Oklahoma and bought a laundromat in May of 2025, which is what prompted me to get Sarah on the pod. So, Sarah, welcome to Business Buying for Fi. Excited to dive into your story.
Hi, Tim. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. Like her bio said, she is a real estate investor and owns a real estate bookkeeping company to help real estate investors keep their books straight. But what I really brought her on here today was to talk a little bit about this laundromat acquisition. And she also has some interesting takes on starting businesses versus buying businesses. So we'll get into that a little bit as well. Do you want to just start with giving? I know the bio kind of covered that overview, but do you want to just give a little bit of a bigger picture of what your kind of portfolio looks like between companies and real estate?
Yeah, absolutely. So a little bit of background, I'm a CPA, allergic to taxes. I worked for a real estate developer and we scaled him from 8 million to 80 million in 80 years, or 8 years, not 80. um while I was a CFO, and I had this mindset of I don't have this kind of money. I can't be a real estate investor, because that's what I'm looking at every day. I'm looking at $50 million deals and $10 million deals and all this other stuff. I'm not looking at $100,000 house. And so my mindset was like, I am stuck here for the rest of my life because I make great money, I make great bonuses, and this is where I'm gonna be. And then I met my husband, got married, and we started talking about having kids and all this. So, like, it's not just me anymore. We're thinking about bringing some people into this. And that's kind of when my mindset started shifting. We together combined, when we combined our finances, we made amazing money, but we also had a ton of consumer debt because we are both spenders. We both like to lavish on people and treat people, and it's not even necessarily for ourselves. We like to experiences and all that, and, we were in our mid to late 30s, and we had been doing all that. So, we first tackled our personal finances, paid off $150,000 of non-consumer debt in 2 years, had a baby, all this stuff, and now we had, like, all this extra money, and I was like, "Wait," and that's when I started looking, listening to Bigger Pockets and found the Instagram for, all the people building, real estate businesses, and I was like, "Wait a minute, I can do this." Coach Carson was a big one, and, the small but mighty was kind of our theory. We were just gonna buy a couple a year and everything. So 2021, we actually no, 2022, we actually bought our first one. In 2021, I some things were happening, and I was ready to depart my job and, like, go all in. I told my boss, I was like, "I'm ready to build our wealth, not yours." And he said, "You finally get it, great." And, so I started my bookkeeping business and did really well out of the gate with that, and then we started in 2022, we bought our first single family home, and, we've bought 2 duplexes and another single family home since then, and we've kinda paused. My husband, um had worked for 23 years for a very large company, and they were had announced that they were going to close his shop down, and we were like, we had just sat down and we were like, to hit we needed we were probably gonna hit it in about 3 or 4 years. We needed X amount of more, investment properties, and we were gonna do it this way, and we were looking at other strategies then too, more like multifamily stuff or co-living, but not necessarily going to buy a laundromat. But as a CPA, I was like, he they gave us a year notice of what his severance was going to be when his final day was there, and it was large, and I was like, "I don't wanna pay all those taxes on that." So that's when we started looking at laundromats. We had turned one of our units into a short-term rental, and we were gonna use the short-term rental loophole at first, but we got some amazing offers for midterm rental, and that felt just like it made more sense. And then we saw a laundromat up for sale, and I was like, "All right, we're gonna go forward with the midterm offer so we don't have to deal with this short-term rental because it's a lot of work." And we have a lot of things going. My husband had already so there was a gap there, for our funding for to be able to fully retire him. And he had done barbecue competitions for 20 years, so we kinda turned his hobby into a business as well, and he got a food truck and started doing catering and stuff to supplement that, and so we just didn't have the time for more fixer-uppers and to add to that and everything, and so we started looking at this laundromat, and we looked in it at it first in January of 2024, and it was on the market for $145,000, and we went and looked at it, and they had the hours were from, like, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., and we were like, "There's a lot of value add just by changing the hours," like, that's a huge gap there, and it was closed on Mondays and maybe one other day, I can't remember the specifics. So yeah, we started looking into it, and we were just like, "Yeah, it just doesn't make sense right now." That we looked at the profit and loss that the old owner had, and we were just like, 145,000 is way too much." And, um, true story, a couple months later, I had had dental surgery, and I was still loopy on that, and I was scrolling on Facebook, and, sh the realtor had told me that it had gone somebody else had put a contract on it, so we were done, like, I was fine. We were looking for something else, and, I was on medication, pain medication, just had dental surgery, I was scrolling through, and I texted my realtor, and, she said, or I asked her, I said, "I wonder if he'd, think about 125," and literally, like, 5 seconds later, she called me and she said, "He says he accepts your offer," and I was like, "I didn't make an offer." How am I gonna tell James this? Um, but yeah, we looked over the numbers again that night, and we were really close. By then, we had his, final date, and we knew, by the time it closed, it was gonna be within a month of him leaving, and so we knew we could, you know, had the capacity for him to go help and because we were gonna do a lot of things and, updates and stuff like that, so
Nice. So there was a bunch of things I want to unpack there. First, you touched on taxes, and there's probably a lot of people out there wondering, how does buying a laundromat help you save money on taxes from a severance package? We don't need to go into the full nitty gritty on
yeah.
everything, but can you just give people a quick high level overview of what your thought is on that?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing is to offset your W-2 income, your regular 9 to 5 income, you have to have an active loss, um, or passive loss up to a limit, it gets in, like you said, nitty-gritty details in there. But, the short-term rental loophole that we had originally thought about using, would take any depreciation from those homes, as a loss against our W-2 income. And we didn't have that. But when you buy a business with real estate attached to it, and that's the key, I think, for laundromats too, is because there are some laundromats that you don't buy the real estate with it, maybe a lease with it, or some other creative way that they have that. But anyways, ours was with the building and the 2 acres with it. Of course, you can't depreciate land, but we are able to use the building and equipment inside of it and do bonus depreciation on that because it's an active business. We can use the active losses to our active W2 income, which would include the severance. And so, yeah, we'll get. They took a huge chunk, more than the usual because it's considered like a bonus or severance. It's withheld at a higher rate. So, we're in the process of hurriedly getting, all of our financials done to I was hoping to have everything done by the time we recorded here so I mean, I'm fine with giving actual numbers, but, I didn't quite get that done. I think we're probably another week or 2 away from having our finalized tax return done, but yeah, so we're hoping to I know we're gonna get all of those taxes withheld back and
That's awesome. Yeah. So basically, for those that are not super familiar, there is passive income, which is from your rental properties or stock dividends and things like that. And then there's active income, which is most of you out there have jobs, W 2 income, or 1099 contractors. And so that short-term loophole that she mentioned, which there's tons of podcasts out there about it. Amanda Hahn, Han, is a great resource on that. She's on a million podcasts talking about the short-term rental loophole because that's active income. Short-term rentals are active. Like Sarah said, she didn't want to deal with it. That's why they went with the medium-term route. It is, my wife and I have one. It's a lot of work. But you can deduct those losses from active income. And for those of you out there that are wondering, why are you buying a business to lose money, Sarah? It's not that she's actually losing money. It's that the depreciation cost, so that cost of the building and the cost of the equipment, which laundromats are heavily, there's a lot of equipment in them, that gets all deducted in the first year. It's a lot of complex accounting stuff. If you're not familiar, again, Amanda Hahn has written books about this. And there's a lot of podcasts out there about it. Um, so that was a good strategy. You saved yourself a lot of money just from that regard. But
yeah, and
ideally, yeah, yeah, go ahead.
it could offset, yeah, other active business and everything else if you, kinda you can use that as a strategy, buy one and, just kinda, um yeah, you don't want the laundromat to be making millions of dollars it would just go against that, income too, but
Which in that scenario, if it's making millions of dollars, then you just pay more taxes, which isn't ideal, but you're still
yeah,
making a lot of money.
you have
Uh,
other routes
so,
to it.
so then you got to go find something else to offset that. Um, So, and then so you kind of looked at the laundromat, you let it go for a couple months, you got high on dental drugs and decided to buy it. What were you looking at in between, while that was off the table for a little while? Were you looking at other businesses or were you back to looking at other real estate opportunities?
We were still looking at other laundromats. We wanted to go, an unintended laundromat. That was key for us is we didn't wanna have to manage, a whole lot of people, but also, it being an active business, we still had to be active in the business, and, I mean, there's still rules in there, like, you still have to do stuff, but, I had listened to, some podcast, and I'm in a couple of masterminds with people that own laundromats, and so I had, started, quizzing them and chatting with them about it and everything, and I think I really felt drawn to the laundromat, um, the way it's all set up, so that was yeah, all we were looking at.
All right. So, how did you come to the conclusion that 145,000 was too expensive for this particular laundromat, even though you said there was opportunity to add some value just by extending the hours?
Yeah, so if we, even with a 20% down payment and I think the interest rate was like 6.5% at the time. We did a pro forma on it with the payment, and with the income that he had coming in at the time that he was showing that he had coming in, I wanted it to at least break even or kinda pay for itself. I didn't wanna have to dump a lot of money into it actively, and it was just going to be it wasn't gonna cover the mortgage and couple other things, so, um, it was close, but I just was like, I just didn't feel like it, and plus, um my banker, we had looked at some appraisals, and we just didn't feel like it was the right amount for that town. It would, um yeah, we looked at what he paid for it, like, 4 years prior, and he hadn't put much into it, and so we were just like, yeah, we just didn't feel that that was right.
Yeah. Okay. And how did
And when we offered 125 and the appraisal only came back at 130, so
okay. So
yeah.
you were correct. 145 was too high. What did you with other laundromats you looked at, did you get close to making an offer on any other ones, or were they all priced too high?
No, they were all priced too high and too far away. There was one kinda close to us that, we were going to that wasn't for sale, but we knew it was very neglected, and we were going to, approach the owner about doing something with him, but we never did that. But we still are thinking about it because it's still there, same owner, and everybody's complaining about it, and I'm like, maybe we go ahead and buy that one too. Maybe we just start buying one laundromat a year and just seeing where it goes. But we don't have any more W-2 income, so but we have other income, other businesses we'll talk about here shortly
Yeah.
that we could offset some income with.
Yeah. And those losses would carry over to future years anyway as well, right? Even
Yeah.
if you
Yeah. There's limitations to them, but yeah, you should be able to.
yeah. Okay. So the realtor got your quote unquote offer accepted very quickly. What was the next step in that process?
So we had these big plans. We were like, "Oh, we're gonna get a small business loan and do it under a small business loan." And we had been talking to the banker the whole time about this, and said he was fine with it. And we wanted to put an ice machine in the parking lot and upgrade it to a coinless system, the card system, and all that. I think we were gonna need about $85,000 to do all that. So, um, we were gonna borrow 200,000 total for a small business loan, but, when we use a small community bank, where, basically our, uh, loan officer goes into the meeting and goes to bat for us, and they say, "Yeah, we'll do this. Yeah, we won't." But you also have the back office people in the bank that analyze it and analyze the numbers. They analyze your numbers, they analyze the business numbers, and because the guy was taking so much of a loss every year, um, they wouldn't recommend it for small business loan. So, we couldn't do that. I have not talked to the banker yet, but I'm hoping once we get our tax return file and everything and they see that we've increased all the income, that we might be able to pursue a small business loan and get, a ice machine still in there and get all that upgraded. We have not upgraded that yet, but, still looking for to do that.
Okay. So how did you end up making the purchase then?
So, yeah, they just did it for real estate. It's just a real estate loan. And that's why, yeah, the appraisal came back at 130,000. So we put 25,000 down and the loan was 400,000. So
Okay. So, yes. So for the people out there wondering, you were trying to borrow 200,000, which was you wanted to do one loan all at closing so that you could have extra cash to make the upgrades that you wanted to make and add an ice machine, which ideally would drive more revenue, and you'd have the money to pay that higher loan. But with sellers of businesses that show losses year after year, even if they tell you wink, wink, nod, nod, I actually made a lot of money. I'm just not showing it on my tax returns kind of thing. The banks,
which is what he said.
unfortunately, the banks, unfortunately, don't accept winks and nods as proof that there's actually money there. It's got to be on the paper.
Yeah, and when it came down to it, he wasn't fibbing a lot, like, I mean, it was not doing great
Yeah,
when we
yeah,
got in there and got the real numbers.
yeah. How did you verify, or did you try to verify his numbers that he gave you?
He gave us tax returns, and
Okay,
we talked to him.
okay,
We live in a small town, we knew who he was and everything, and
okay,
he was he had owned a couple other, different types of businesses, and we knew he was retiring and everything, so
okay. Yeah, because it's a question I get from people a lot is how do I know that the seller's telling the truth? Tax returns usually, I've yet to meet a business owner that lies on their tax returns to show that they make more money. Um, I don't know if you've ever come across that, but it's usually if they're lying on their tax returns, it's to show that they make less money, so they have to pay less taxes.
right.
So um, you can kind of rely on at the minimum whatever they're showing on their tax returns as proof, but then the rest of it is you just getting to know the person, which is why I say it's so important to kind of get to know the seller, get to know the people in any business deal, get to know the people you're doing business with to make sure you can trust them and work with them to a certain
Yeah.
extent.
We had talked to some people in the community as well. We had gone over there one day and, um, talked to because there was another laundromat that opened up, pretty close to it, and we quickly realized that they were not competition at all. They, their prices were double. You had to walk up a huge hill. They had no parking close to them. I'm like, "Nobody's gonna wanna lug their laundry all the way up there." Um, and that's the complaints they had. They also said that because we have gas dryers, which dry them a lot faster, and so that was a huge plus for us, that everybody was like, "Yeah, I can do a full load here for half of the money that I spend over there, and my clothes still aren't dry." So, we quickly figured out that because we live in kind of a small town, but the laundromat's in a really small town, and, everybody talks over there, so we knew that that wasn't gonna be actual competition for us, so
Nice. Did you go to the extent I've heard of some people buying laundromats that go to the extent of analyzing utility bills and working backwards to calculate whether or not
we
the
I just did a quick call to ask for average billing on it,
Mhm.
but, I don't think they told me the right numbers, or maybe I gave them a wrong address or something because I feel like or maybe they, like, just increased their pricing after it changed, but yeah, it wasn't, yeah. Usually you can just call and get the average billing, saying you're going to, look into purchase, they'll or even if you're renting something, you can call and see what the average billing is.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's so I've heard of people taking that a step further and then dividing that cost and kind of reverse engineering how many loads of laundry they
Oh,
think
yeah.
they think would have been done to kind of verify, especially if the seller is saying, well, there's 1,000 loads a month being done, and the tax returns are showing there's like 600. It's a way of kind of double checking what they're actually telling you.
Yeah.
But I don't know, but
No, we
that
did not
it's tough.
go all the way into that. Yeah, and so I had, I think Jordan Berry has a laundromat resource, and he's got all the calculators and stuff on there and everything, and I think I had bought one of those, but honestly, I never actually, like, we were kinda flying by the seat of our pants. We just using a gut feeling on it.
And maybe your utility costs are much higher because you're doing so much better now.
I think that's a good chunk of it. There was a I think honestly, I think the biggest part of it is there was a room that was shut off, and it had a ton of old arcade games and 2 pool tables, and they had the air conditioning shut off to that too, so I think that was a huge part of it because 'cause we've opened that back up for kids to play in, and we've put phone chargers in there for people to sit and charge their phones and, just do all that stuff. We had a fun day, last fall, and it poured down rain on us, so we ended up using that room for we had about 50 people come, which was a great turnout for a small town with pouring down rain, um and so that room's come in very handy since, we've been looking for someone who wants to maybe lease it out for a business or something, but we just haven't found a great use for it. Right now, everybody seems to love it as a playroom. We have just a couple of toys in there for kids. It's nothing big, but we have great customers. They usually keep everything picked up and tidy in there, so
That's awesome. Yeah, I actually just heard a podcast with a guy who emphasizes putting kids' play areas and resources in his laundromats for kids because it keeps the moms or the dads happier longer and
they'll
has
keep
them
putting them
come in
quarters in
there.
to dry
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so your best use might be just keep it as is.
Yeah.
So you had a fun day. You fixed up that game room a little bit. You couldn't do all of the big improvements that you wanted to right away, but what else have you done to improve the business overall?
We bought some used coin-operated machines off of Facebook Marketplace, and it was a bust. He delivered them, none of them worked, and we had plenty of, backup that it was, that he would fix them within 30 days. We had text messages and all this other stuff. We ended up taking him to court in December, and the judge ruled for us. He showed up with a lawyer, but the judge still ruled for us because we had so much, text messages and Facebook messages, from it and everything. But we still have yet to see our money back from buying those, and they are still sitting in the back room waiting to get. But yeah, we were trying to add more. Uh, it this is very niche to this area. We have a lot of oil and gas, and, even people that have washing machines at home, they don't wanna wash their, oil field clothes. They wanna go to the laundromat. So we were gonna use those as greaser machines because that is a big pull for some of our revenues right there. And so we were gonna use those older ones for greaser machines and, didn't have that done. My husband's, been able to, fix a couple of older ones that were in there, but they didn't last much longer after that, but we are still looking to, we'll probably in the next few months, go ahead and change it to, card instead of coin and, add in some use some of our own funds to add in some, more units and everything. We just kinda wanted to we didn't wanna put too much into it in, 2025 'cause we were already have the big loss and everything, so we wanted to spread some of it for this year too, but
Yeah, nice. So you bought the laundromat, you've improved it a little bit, and you're gonna hopefully make some bigger investments again this year. You've also started multiple businesses from scratch. How does your experience buying the laundromat compare to starting from scratch?
listen, I tell everybody the laundromat is our easiest baby. It is it's just it's so good. It's established, people the clients there, the customers there. We have some that are real cranky, but we quickly remind them that the reason why we still have the lowest prices, in the whole county is because we don't have an attendant there and we can keep it like that for now. And that's one thing, we still have not raised prices, and we could raise them a lot compared to other people. Um, but we wanted to do some other more value add things. Well, honestly, I wanted to get the kiosk with the card in there so we could easily, change the prices. Those that excuse me, you can, You have a free dry day and, you can do all the fun stuff like that. So I wanted to make it feel like it was worth their time to, like, actually pay more. So our first week, um, we collected maybe a little over $300, and then after that, we were averaging between $300 and $400 a week, and then we had to buy a, um, magnetic lock that we can control on our phone, so we didn't have to physically go over there. Because the reason why it was 9 to 5 is because that's what was convenient for him to open and close it, and it wasn't a business decision, it was just, like, what was convenient to him. I mean, props to him, I get it, but so we about 4 weeks in, we changed the time from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m., and we were able to do everything from our phones. We had adopted a cleaner from him, and she cleans it 4 days a week, and we cleaned it 3 days a week. Um, so when we made that one change with the lock and was able to open it more, we pretty much immediately went up to, like, $600 a week, and then we had to get that information out there to people, and so we had this family fun day, and we gave away, like, $500 in quarters and some other stuff, and my husband, who has a barbecue truck, we did, pulled pork sandwiches and ice cream sundaes and everything, and we had about 50 people come, and after that, we started seeing $700 to $800 weeks, so and that's what we're seeing now is between 7 and $800 a week, so we've, you know, 2.5x our weekly revenue, and we haven't put much money into it yet.
That's amazing. It's quite the growth from just from some minor adjustments, really, just hours and treating your customers good. That's the customer service, no matter what business you're in, is such an important piece of business.
Yeah. That's what I told, our maintenance I say maintenance, she's the cleaner, she's kind of the manager, her phone number's on the door too for to call if we aren't available. I told her, I was like, "Always just give them their money back. It's easier to just give them their money back than it is to do anything else." Oh, we did add we bought a old vending machine for $800. It hasn't been a big pull. We maybe get, like, $20 a week on it. Yeah, I just is I don't know why. We've put, cheaper stuff in there, like, we bought little things that's just a dollar, and it's done a little bit better with that, but, yeah, people are in this one, they aren't very taking to the vending machine.
like vending for like laundry detergent and those types of things,
We
or
have laundry detergent, and I went
okay,
and bought the cheaper, ones, and I put, like, the cheap dryer sheets in uh for a dollar. Yeah, I put, like, 5 of them in there, 5 for a dollar, and, the cheap pods, I put those in for, like, a dollar. And some people buy them, but not much. And then because we had the name brand, chips and candy and stuff like that, and then we took all that out, and we just put in, like, the dollar store chips and stuff, and that did a little better, but still not that much.
hmm, interesting. Um, I guess every market has its own little things. It's one of the vending machines is something I've always heard with laundromats is the way to go to add revenue, but I guess every market's a little different.
My son put a vending forgot to mention this too. My son put a little, 1 quarter, 1 spin, you get Skittles or a gumball or a little bouncy ball, and he makes just as much on that than we do on our big one, so,
Nice, good for him.
yeah.
He
That
knows the
probably
customers.
pulls all of our revenue from ours, so yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. The parents will gladly give up a couple quarters for a gumball or Skittles. Keep the kids happier longer,
Yeah,
rather than
absolutely.
get some dryer sheets. Um, nice. So it sounds like a good deal overall. You're happy with it. It's you just call it your easiest child or easiest baby. And you mentioned you're thinking about starting to look for another one. Have you started that process yet? Or are you,
Nope, just it's just a dream right now. We have, oh my gosh, we got so much stuff going on that it's but we like to keep ourselves busy, so we've found more information about the owner, but I still feel like it needs I wanna be able to, I wanna save a lot more money to be able to go in there and really upgrade that one, so it may be about a year before we can actually do something on that without
and so I guess maybe shift gears a little bit and talk about starting a business from scratch and kind of what you went through and what that looked like for you in terms of getting started and compare it a little bit to taking over an existing business.
absolutely. Um So, when I started the business, I was like, I've been a CFO. I know everything about business financials, all this other stuff. I can do bookkeeping very easily. Um, this should be easy, which it was at first, but keeping the marketing going and the sales going and all the stuff you have to do to get established enough to not have to spend all your time and energy on that and do actually the stuff you wanna do, is so exhausting, and buying an established business that's been there for 30 years and people already know it, and I mean, it did take us a little while to get out that the hours had changed and everything, but once that happened, it just feels like and I wanna add to that, our we need to add more dryer washer and dryers too, because our busiest times, people are waiting to use them, so we would add a lot more revenue if we could get more in there, but but yeah, just the many hats you have to wear to start a business that until you I've heard so many different numbers, but one thing that's really stagnant is 20, 30 years ago, it took, like, 7 touches before somebody knew you were a valid business, and, like, it could be through different medias, it could be word of mouth and all this other stuff. 3 to 7, I've heard a range between there. Now, like, I've heard from 21 to 50 touches before somebody really understands that you're a real business that's gonna stick around and that because when somebody sees your name for the first time, like and you could think about it yourself, like because I know I did, and I didn't realize I did it until I started a business, but I would be like, "Oh, I don't need that," and not pay any attention to it, and it takes you have to get in front of so many people to get out there and to for people to know that you're an established business and that you're gonna be around for a while and you're worth, giving that out there. Yeah, so that I think that's the biggest thing in buying the established business. It wasn't that much effort to I mean, there was effort put in, but it wasn't nearly as much as we've had to do in growing our other businesses. So, I think
Yeah.
that's the
Yeah.
biggest thing.
Yeah. That cycle of, like you explained, between marketing and then actually doing the work and then marketing and doing like bringing in customers and getting the work done is a time consuming venture, especially when you're just getting started. Because how long were you by yourself before you started hiring people in that business?
In the bookkeeping
And like,
business,
yeah,
I probably within 6 months, I started hiring people, and
okay,
like I said, I got my first customers really easily,
yep,
um, but getting past that and referrals were okay, but then I realized it wasn't the type of customers that I wanted, and I was like, "Oh, we've gotta build a different company now," and they were lovely people, but I wanted to niche down to real estate investors. I'd come from development and construction and all that, and I had several construction ones, and, I was like, "No, I wanna go strictly to real estate investors," because that's where my passion was, and, like, I was feeling exhausted working with the construction people because that's what I'd done for so many years, and I was ready to kinda step aside from that, and I do have flippers now, and I love it, and I'm okay with that and everything, but, and I tried to go back to construction last year, but I was like, "Yeah, it's just not, like, straight up construction," and, new construction, it was just wasn't my I love the flippers more than new construction. I don't know what it is, I can't tell you. Anyways, pivoting to that, niching down, scaling, all that, um yeah, it just takes a lot of experience and a lot of change, and, I feel like laundromats are something that it's a physical thing there, and people drive by and see it, and getting your voice and your name out there when you're a virtual company and, your clients are all over, the United States. I have no clients any longer local to me, and, yeah, so it's a lot of efforts to get yourself out there and really establish yourself. But not only on that part, attracting good talent. And again, I've had some lovely people working for me, but we missed the vision part of it, and we had we were going down two separate lanes and everything. And so I brought on several managers to try to kind of take over on operations, and I'm still looking for the sweet spot. I'm still trying to figure that part of it out to really kind of scale. I've got a lot of feedback and help from people, so I think this year's gonna be my year, knock on wood. But yeah, building a business is very lonely by yourself, and it's very hard to find somebody as passionate about your business as you are to help you scale it. So it's just you've got to have a hard mindset to get there. My husband is building his catering business, and I feel like he's getting more traction quicker, because, well, his price point's smaller than bookkeeping, but he also had has done barbecue competition for years. People knew him for brisket already, so it's kinda help for that too, but yeah, getting him steady out there, that's what we're trying to do this year with him is it's his first full year full time on doing the food truck and catering, and so he's getting established in that and, like, really starting to get some big clients out of it and everything, so I think he'll be pretty stabilized this year too, so, but yeah, it's depends on the industry, and it depends on a few different things, but still, an established business. I'm currently looking to probably within the next 6 months or so, buy another bookkeeping business to be able to scale my business that I've already built, and I've started consulting with other bookkeepers that have done it before, and one of them, like, totally told me not to do it, and they was trying to scare me off on it and everything, and I was like, "Okay." So I went and got more people and, people's opinions, and I feel like I'm gonna be able to do it, so, just starting that search right now, I've been given some numbers of people that do valuations for bookkeeping companies and that would know some that are on the market and everything. So I'm trying to figure out the multiplier and, what I actually, because I know I'm going to lose. You lose some when you buy, you lose some clients when you buy because they're loyal to somebody else or they're loyal to somebody that's local or something like that. And so yeah, I'm working through all that. Love to come back in a year and tell you if I've bought another laundromat or
Yeah.
bookkeeping business. We can
Or
do it
both.
we can do a part 2 update, see how everything is going.
Yeah.
But we're in the thick of it right now.
That's awesome. So first off, real quick, I had Tiffany Kao on a recent episode who started and sold a bookkeeping business.
Oh, yeah.
So you might want to. She started her bookkeeping business with the intent of selling it right from the scratch. That episode might be a good one for you to check out. And then I was going to touch on that employee thing too with one of the advantages of buying an existing business is having the employees in place that know the business, know how things run. You mentioned that with the inherited employee of the laundromat, she's there, she knows everything, she knows the systems. It's just a matter of upskilling them a little bit if you want as you take over. And then, there are other people, other companies that just acquire other businesses solely for their employees. They don't even care if they get the customers over because employees make or break a business, and
Yeah.
it can be tough to hire the right people, like you mentioned with that vision piece. And I think from my experience or knowing other people that have acquired professional service type businesses, I, it I think whoever you got that advice from that it's a bad idea might have talked to the people that I know who've had bad experiences with this. Sometimes there's a culture, culture fits are not right. But that's something you got to figure out during due diligence and make that decision accordingly. That doesn't mean that the idea is bad. It just means that there might not every acquisition is going to be the right fit.
Yeah. I'm trying to take the same approach of, hire slowly, fire quickly. And so when it's going to be the same thing cuz you're basically hiring a whole, team of people. So the due diligent part, I'm going to take that to heart, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to be annoying, and I'm gonna be like, "No, I wanna talk to everybody, and I want to basically interview everybody to make sure that your culture is what you say it is, and I will be getting that same culture when it comes over to me." And, um, so I've learned that I have to stand up for myself and, like, my business is priority number 1 because I have let, some employees, especially remote workers, given them a little too much leeway, and then, yeah, things go south quickly, and it's hard. It's hard to be the mean person firing them when they have family problems, but you know what? I can't my mortgage has gotta be paid, and you're not working, so, um, just the way it is sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the part of running a business, whether you started it or bought it, that can be challenging for a lot of people is dealing with those tough situations with needing to let people go or discipline people for, or try to work with them on issues. Um, so you're just starting this process. How are you going about your search for other bookkeeping businesses?
So the only thing that I've done so far is there's a lot of Facebook groups for bookkeeping businesses. And so the only thing I've done so far is asked in there if anyone is ready to, get rid of their business, if they're ready to sell, if they're, you know, at the point of done. And I've had a few people reach out to me and we've talked and everything. And one, I was actually gonna bring her on as a partner and do be like my operations manager, and we were gonna do yeah, I was gonna do sales and marketing, and she was going to do operations. And, we were doing a 30-day trial period, and, like, nothing was getting done, and I was like, "Alright, yeah, this isn't gonna work out." So, so I shut that down really quickly. It was an experience, I learned a lot from it. She's still, you know, she's still great at what she does and everything, but we didn't work out. And, I've talked to a couple of other people and trying to, figure out something with them. One of them told me what she wanted for her business, and I thought I was like, "Have you gotten it valued?" And she's like, "No, that's just what I want." So I'm like, I don't know that she really wants to sell because it was like, way from my, first reaction test, I was like, I don't think that math works out." She's like, "I'll 100% finance it to you and you just pay me and da da da." And I was like, I need to look around some more." But I don't know what it's gonna look like. I think maybe I look at that company again because I really liked it, and I really like her. She and I had actually talked several times before, um, and so I feel like she has a good business going and everything, just from her reputation in some of the groups and our conversations. We've actually talked for, like, 2 or 3 years now, just casually on other posts and everything. But maybe I'll bring an evaluator and, like, make a different offer and or something for her. She was trying to sell, like, all the courses she's has access to as well, and I was like, "I don't need any more courses, I don't have time for those." And, she was like, "I have all these courses that I'll sell with the company because 'cause you'll have my domain," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm not gonna keep your domain, they're gonna become mine," and, um, anyways, yeah, I don't know how it's going to pan out. I'm still just dipping my toes in it. And my next step is I'm gonna go ahead and I've thought about getting my business valuated just to see the process and just to know what it's like, and just to see the back end of it to know what I need to ask about the valuation of it. Because I feel like there's a lot more that needs to go into buying a bookkeeping business than a laundromat business. I feel like it's gonna be a lot more, spreadsheets and pro formas and punching the numbers in and figuring it all out.
Yeah, I mean, from what I remember with my interview with Tiffany, this businesses like that are typically valued somewhere at 0.75 to 1.25 times the EBITDA or the seller's discretionary earnings. So if the seller is taking home $100,000 a year, uh, the sale price of the business would be somewhere between 75,000 and 125,000. There's obviously a lot of variables that go into that that could make it more or less how big the biggest clients are. You know, if they're reliant on one giant client,
Mhm.
that could reduce the value quite a bit. If they're, uh, you know, if their receivables are not good because their clients are small and not paying on a regular basis, that can make it not, um, so there, and then depending on their systems and that woman, if she's trying to sell courses or if she has some other kind of evergreen income besides just the bookkeeping services, maybe that increases the value too. But yeah, it probably wouldn't hurt for you to have that done on your own business to get a peek under the hood to see what they're looking at and understand, uh, understand that process a little bit.
Yeah.
Um, We have a few more minutes, and before we get out of here, I think it would be worthwhile for our audience to hear just a quick thing from you on the importance of bookkeeping and just why it's important. I've looked at numerous businesses for sale where the books are uh, horrendous, for lack of better
Questionable.
words. So could you
That is my
just kind of touch
favorite
on that
topic.
quickly?
Bookkeeping is my favorite subject, and I could talk for days on end about it. I scaled a, real estate development construction company, 10x in 8 years, basically from a monthly accounting meeting because we had our books done every month, and I we had every decision maker in the company in that meeting, and every time the email would go out, the invite would go out for the meeting, everybody grumbled and they hated it, but at the end of the day, they said, "Sarah, we make more decisions in here and better decisions in here than we do on the job sites, every day because they can see the whole thing. All the teams are talking to each other." We had several different teams: development, construction, property management, and they made huge decisions together. Property management was like, "Well, we're, spending a ton of money on this because, construction is doing a crappy job, and so we saved money over here," and, just things like that, and, just little things about telling development, "If we would do this on the lots, it would be better for, building this," and everybody in the same room, and when you first buy a new business or start your own business or buy a rental property, you may be that only person in that accounting meeting, but it is still imperative to start that accounting meeting once a month, and it's gonna be 5 minutes. Maybe it's just looking at your bank statement. Um, You just need to get more familiar with your numbers because we all do the mental math. We all do rents are $1,200 a month. The rent for the first, one is $1,200 a month, and we had a mortgage of $600 a month, so we should have $600 left over. No, there's a lot more that goes into that, and that mental math doesn't always have all the numbers in it, and most people don't start thinking about bookkeeping until they're way down the line, a couple of years in. They send their bank statements to their tax preparer and they get it. But when you start your bookkeeping at the very beginning of your business, it's easier to that slow drip learning of what is what. And even if you don't give a care about any of your bookkeeping and you outsource it, you still need to look at your reports and know what those numbers are because the bookkeeper isn't responsible for those numbers. They are your numbers. The bookkeeper is just organizing them for you. They are still your numbers. You made the decision to spend the money. You made the decision to keep the money or whatever it is. Those are your decisions and you need to know your numbers so you can make better decision. And my goal is to help real estate investors and anybody who follows me on Instagram understand that the more you know and the more familiar you are with bookkeeping, the more confident you can be in your numbers, which makes for much better business making decisions. Whether you're going to sell your numbers or if you're looking to buy a business, you know what that P&L looks like. You know where to look for the gaps in there. Wait, there's no insurance on here. These people haven't ever paid insurance before. Well, here's what they probably did. They put it on a personal credit card to get some points and forgot to put it over and things like that. And you need to know to look and be like, wait a minute, insurance isn't there. But if you've never looked at a P&L before, you wouldn't think, oh, insurance needs to be on everything. Pretty much every business you have, even if it's liability insurance, you need insurance on pretty much everything. So that's a big one, you know what to look for on a P&L. You know what would stand out like a sore thumb. Like, why do you have so much taxes on here? This doesn't add up. And because they paid their personal tax bill from their business, which isn't, they're not supposed to do. And I've seen that before. So I think the more you just look at your P&L and you understand the numbers on it and why they're there, the more confident you are as a business owner in whatever thing you are in. So that's my that's my brief little. I know I rambled for a while there, but that's as brief as I can get it.
That's fine. I love it because yes, it is a subject I'm sure you could go much deeper and longer on. It blows my mind when I talk to business owners, especially ones that they pay for a QuickBooks subscription and they keep nothing updated throughout the year and they just wait for their accountant to do it all at the end of the year. I'm like, why are you even paying for that? You may as well just hand your accountant your bank statements at the end of the year if that's all you're going to do. And because you have bookkeeping tools like that and other ones that are powerful and help you understand your numbers. So
Yeah, and
use
I have a
them.
book coming out later on this month for real estate
Oh,
investors. It's called From Doors to Decisions. I don't even remember if I told you about
you
this.
didn't even tell me. No.
I
Awesome.
I totally forgot. It's called From Doors to Decisions, and, we start out with the mindset of that. Atomic Habits is one of my favorite books ever. It changed my life years ago when we were paying off our debt and, starting to learn, uh about real estate investing in a small, simple way, and also health, physical. I mean, it has changed my life in so many different areas. But anyways, I reference Atomic Habits. Start small. Just look at your bank statement every month. Do a 5-minute meeting with yourself, and then it goes into how to, set up your QuickBooks and why keeping a smaller chart of accounts at the beginning is important, and just the mindset about everything and how to just get started in the smallest ways so you can check the box and say, "Okay, I've done it."
Yep. That's awesome. I look forward to that. And I'm sure I will be recommending it to people because starting small. Yeah, people overlook the power of starting small, just small little things like that. And for those of you that heard the words chart of accounts and immediately tuned out, like I would encourage you to you're the ones that need to go read that book. I used to hate taxes. I used to hate thinking about taxes, but once I picked up a couple tax books and started reading about them, it really, it um, becomes something you think about more. It becomes more understandable, and then you can take advantage of these systems better.
Yeah, most
So,
people think bookkeeping sucks because they're so unfamiliar with it,
yep.
and yeah, that's
Yeah.
my goal is just to help people become more familiar with it so it's not as daunting.
Very cool. I'm going to put the links in the show notes, but before we jump to you sharing those links, I just wanted to touch on something you brought up earlier on in the conversation about some masterminds that you bounced some ideas off of. You don't need to go into specifics necessarily if you don't want, but you can. How important are masterminds to you? And for those that are not familiar, masterminds are groups of people that get together to talk through a business problem, a fitness problem. It doesn't always have to be problems, but just talk through issues. They're on similar pages, similar stages in life, not always similar, but they share their own perspectives, and you share those together. It creates a mastermind. Multiple minds are better than one. So, how has that played into your business success?
So huge. I said earlier that it's very lonely building a business. I mean, even with my husband, we're building two different businesses, but it's still, he's building his and I'm building mine. And I mean, it's hard. I don't want to take him away from his passion and I don't want to butt in on his passion. And I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's just me making all these decisions. And joining a mastermind has made it a group effort, so to say. Like, I have groups of people I can text and be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm really banging my head against this problem. Why is this feeling so hard to me today? Um, I need some advice or I just need to vent," something like that. And I'm involved in at least 4 different masterminds right now. And yeah, I pay a lot of money to be in those masterminds, but they are well worth it because they help me open my eyes and they keep me going. I have felt like the little guy in the mine hitting the gold, um, but turning around like when he was an inch away from the gold. I have felt like that so many times, and my masterminds help me keep chugging away at the dirt because I know that with my experience in operations for this company, I have learned a heck of a lot and I am almost there to get it running smoothly like I want. And so it's not such of a headache. And I'm starting to hire the right people to do the things that I don't love so I can do more of the things that I do love. And I know that is coming soon. But masterminds helped me not quit and help me feel less alone through the whole process. And also, I mean, it's not even about that. It's the community and it's the relationships. And they say you're the sum of the 5 people closest to you. And when it was just me in my hometown, like nobody in my immediate circle is building businesses and buying businesses and doing what my husband and I are doing. Like, we didn't have that in our circles. And these people are still absolutely lovely people, and we still go out to eat with them and all this other stuff. But getting around those other people that are making big goals, like, made my goals even bigger.
Yep. Awesome. I selfishly asked you to say about masterminds because I had a feeling you were going to say something about that. And you might not even know this, but I just recently launched a mastermind for people that are trying to buy a business. Sarah's not in it because I don't think she even knew about it yet. But for anybody else out there that is listening and that is interested in buying a business, reach out to me and discuss if you're a good fit for my program. We're not there to teach. We're not there to preach. We're just a group of people that are all trying to buy a business, helping each other, like what Sarah said, solving
Well,
each other's
I might
problems
could use
together.
some value in that. I'll definitely look into
That's,
that too,
yep.
Tim. That's
We
amazing. I'm
we can
excited for
talk.
you.
Awesome. Um, yes. So I appreciate that indirect commercial for my mastermind without even knowing about it, because it is really just these groups. I'm in multiple different groups as well. I also pay a decent amount of money for some of them. And it is really powerful to be around people that can help you solve problems because they've already done them, or they can help you think about it from a different way. So with that, we will wrap up. Do you want to just let everybody know where they can find you? And then, like I said, I'll also put those links in the show notes below.
Yeah, best place probably to find me is Instagram, REI Solutions with Sarah. Hit me up in a DM there.
Nice. All right. And then we'll put the links to our websites as well, and to our book when it's coming out. Is it available for pre-order yet?
No,
Okay. All right.
it's I don't know the process. I've hired people
Okay.
to do this, and I should have gotten a better update for you. I didn't.
That's okay. Maybe you can let me know
I
before
saw
we.
you I saw you in person for several days, and I didn't even tell anybody there that because it just slipped my mind, like, "Oh, yeah." Because it's been such a process, like, we did everything, like, last fall, and I don't know, I just keep forgetting about it.
That's fine. Maybe before this gets published, we'll have a link for that. So
Yeah.
check the links anyway. Maybe it's up. Maybe it's in there. So with that, thank you everybody for watching and listening today. I really appreciate you being here. Sarah, thank you so much for sharing all your knowledge. Everybody should give her a follow on Instagram, and we will talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Cheers. Thanks for listening to Business Buying for Financial Independence. If you're serious about owning your time and building long-term wealth, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode.